Welcome to the Equine Vet Connect podcast. I'm your host, Dan Carter. I'm a veterinarian and a farrier. The goal of this podcast is to educate horse people, break things down, bust myths, and keep it real. Speaking of breaking things down, here's my legal disclaimer to keep my attorney and insurance company happy. While I am a vet, I may not be your vet. Contact them before trying anything you hear on this podcast. Remember, just because you watched it on YouTube or heard it on a podcast does not mean you can do it. Please use common sense. Welcome back to the Equine Vet Connect podcast. I'm Dan Carter. We're here at Countryside Equine Hospital in the old studio again, treatment room 1. Got a special guest here today, Tyler Boatwright. Tyler, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Tyler, today's podcast is going to be a little different. You know, we've always done some sort of a vet topic. We've had we have interviewed some farriers and other vets, but this one's going to be a little bit different. Still horse related, but Tyler came in about 8 months ago. I think the first time he came in.
Yeah, it was right before the World Series finals. I got you to work with my 2 horses before we went out there.
That's right. So Tyler came in and we got to talking, and Tyler had he's got a pretty interesting company and has a pretty cool job and a really great story. And so I was like, you know what, we need to tell the story. We need to talk about this, and it's kind of our podcast, so we do what we want to do. So today's going to be a little different. So we got Tyler Boatwright. Now you've got High Stakes Productions, correct?
Yes, sir.
What exactly does High Stakes Productions do?
So basically what we do, we produce team roping events. We have a lot of events in Greensboro, Georgia, and Clayton, Georgia. We'll host about 12 to 14 events a year, and I'm based out of Bethlehem, Georgia, and we just produce team ropings. Anybody that wants to come.
So for those that don't know, a lot of people have been to rodeos and they may or may not have known they were watching team roping, or maybe they've never been to a rodeo, so they don't know what a team roping is. Let's talk about what is team roping.
So basically you got a Corrini steer and you got a header and a heeler. One ropes the head, one ropes the back 2 feet, and then header and heeler will face and time will stop. I mean, it's based off a timed event. You go to a rodeo, fastest time wins, and then you go to a jackpot, and it's normally a 3 or 4 head average, and it's based off your time that way.
So for those that don't know, that's the only team sport in all the rodeo.
Yes.
The rest of rodeo, all the rest of the events are individual events, but team roping's the one thing we got to do as a team.
Yes. And
it's interesting because you go back in the history of team roping, and it goes back to back in, we call them the cowboy days. Mm-hmm. And this still happens. I worked on ranches and we still had to do this, but it had to do with if you were catching cattle and you had to doctor cattle or you had to do something to cattle, you had to have 2 people able to rope this animal in order to keep them still to work on.
Yes, sir.
And it became a team event in the rodeo. Mm-hmm. So you ever been to a rodeo? This is when you see 2 guys come out of the box. That's where they start. Rope the steer on the head, steer turns left, guy comes in, catches both feet. I've done this a little bit. It's not exactly easy.
No, it's not as easy as everybody takes it to be. I mean, I think I'm 27 years old now, and I started roping my first steer when I was 8. So it's
8.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you get started in team roping?
So basically, just grew up with it. Mom and Dad just started out. We just roped dummy and junior rodeoed. Won my first saddle when I was 5.
Wow.
So Mom and Dad hauled us everywhere. We junior rodeoed, high school rodeoed, everything. And then went on and we amateur rodeoed a little bit, but basically just jackpot now.
Nice. So both your parents roped then?
Yes, both of them rope.
Okay. So when did you start riding horses? I mean, if you won your first saddle, you said 5? Mm-hmm. So you've probably been riding your whole life then?
Whole life.
That's awesome. So you started out roping, went through like everybody, the junior rodeos, high school rodeos, amateurs, and now you do the ropings. Who would you credit? Like, would you say your dad's the one that really kind of helped you keep roping and really pushed you to do it, or helped you along the way, or who would you kind of say was?
I mean, I really can't say somebody. I mean, I took it farther than Mom and Dad ever thought I would. I watched a lot of videos online and kind of done it myself, but they both supported my brother and I all the whole journey. And they still do. They help me at all my ropings and all that. But we just junior rodeoed and just kept going and getting better. And so we just kept going and going and going.
So your brother ropes as well?
Yeah.
So you kind of had a built-in partner?
Kind of, yeah.
Did y'all swap sides of the box, or did one head, one heel?
I was always the header and he was always the heeler.
Okay. How many times did he blame you for?
Yeah, I blamed him a lot more than him blaming me. I can promise you that.
For those who don't know, like my team roping friends, like it's an art on who blames who. Did the header not handle the cattle well, or why'd the heeler stick their loop in the dirt? Because if you don't catch, then it's a no time. And
right.
So it's always funny listening to teams.
Yes, sir.
I would imagine being brothers, there's a few of those arguments in the truck on the ride home.
We've had them.
So you went from team roping, and then you went out and you started high stakes production, and then East Coast Cattle, which is the cow-calf operation that also leases cattle to ropings, correct?
Yeah. So basically we can jump into that and just tell you how I got started.
Let's do it.
All right. So when I was 16 years old, I had a good head horse, and that's when I first really started going to the US TRC team roping events.
Those are the big events held all over the country, the big money events.
So basically that's the big money ropings for anywhere you want to go.
It's like the major league of ropings.
Yeah. And so I had a good year that year and kept winning and winning. Well, every time I'd win, I'd go buy some Corrini cows or some Longhorn cows, something. And I'd always leave me enough money to go enter again.
Right.
So I kept turning them out, and I ended up with probably 25 or 30, I don't know. Well, I was rodeoing a little bit at the time at the amateur rodeos with a buddy of mine, and we were trying to figure out how to make money, how to make more money. We were like, sometimes rodeoing wasn't the best option. And
just real quick, for those that aren't in the rodeo world, it's you do get to win money.
Yeah, but you got to pay your own fees to keep going.
Pay your own fees, and if you don't win, you don't get a check.
Right. Yeah, so we're not guaranteed nothing.
It's a you don't kill anything you don't eat.
Right.
So it's.
Yeah. So we decided we were going to put on a team roping.
Okay.
So I go out and I sell all my cows.
Right.
And I think I end up buying about 30 team roping steers with what money I get back. And at the time I had a single cab flatbed Ford truck, and I borrowed my dad's 16-foot trailer.
Okay.
Took me 3 trips to get all the steers to the roping, but we got them there. And we had our first event, and it went good. And I said, I'm going to do it again. So I went out.
And how old were you when you did this?
18.
18, so 18 years old.
Yeah.
Sell everything you've worked hard for.
Yep.
Go for it. Buy roping steers, let's do a roping.
Yeah, so we go, and I had a lot of family help along the way, financially and supportive and everything, and I got me some money rounded up to go buy about 30 more. That way I could do it all on my own.
Right.
The other guy, he just kind of wanted to go a different route, and I said, I'm going to do it. So I do this next event on my own, and there's a lot of people that come.
Okay.
But I'm just going to tell you, I screwed up that day.
Yeah?
Yeah, so if people that don't know team roping, we have an electric barrier, which is run off of eyes.
So the barrier gives, for those of you that aren't sure, look, what the barrier does is when that steer leaves the chute, that gives him a head start.
Right.
And if you leave too soon, they say you broke the barrier and it's a no time.
Right. Well, it's just a penalty. Like if you break a barrier, at the team roping, it's a 5-second add on to your time. And at the rodeo, it's 10 seconds.
Okay.
And, well, that day, my barriers didn't work all day.
So you had no barrier?
No. And we just kind of set it up and kind of made it look like it was working, but it never worked. And people caught on and got mad, and it set me back.
Right.
I mean, I screwed up, But,
did you not test it before the...
Well, it was the facility's eyes, the electric eyes.
Okay.
Well, they never matched up because at the time, I didn't own my own set or nothing like that. All I was trying to do was get the cattle. That was my main goal. And I screwed up and made a lot of people mad. And I went probably after that, I had a rope in a month, and I went 6 through 8 months, and I mean, I barely had people coming.
Right.
And I mean, enough just to keep making it.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, it just kind of getting a little better and a little better, and I kind of just kept going. And there was another gentleman in Toccoa, Georgia, and he was like, why don't we do some events together at his place? And I was doing these at the time in Blairsville. So we go there, we start a series and do it for about 3 or 4 years. And it does really good. I mean, get a lot of teams, I was making money, I was growing my cow herd. And probably after 3 or 4 years, I was from 30 steers, I was up to 100.
Wow.
You know, so it was just kind of building. But to say all that, I had a setback.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to build everybody's trust back to get them to come back. Because in this industry, you got to kind of make everybody happy, but not just give it all to them. Because there is consequences in all of it. It's all not just fair play. And nobody gets a gold medal at the end of it.
You know, I think that's, and we'll get into that later, that's something that I think every small business owner has had.
Yeah.
Like when you first start out, it's sunshine and roses. Mm-hmm. And when that first big mistake happens, you feel it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I messed up.
Yeah.
But I always say, I think those are the things, like my question to you is like, okay, when that barrier didn't work, what was your next step? Did you go get your own barrier?
I did buy my own barriers, you know. So I was, at the time, I was like, I didn't have much money. I was trying to do it on my own. I didn't want to go borrow a bunch of money from the bank and have to owe them, you know. I was trying to do it all through myself.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I've done the whole thing.
That's awesome.
You know, I've had one person help me, and we'll get into that later on in the podcast, but it was, it's all been through me, you know. I've had family help that way, but as far as banking, I've tried to do it all myself.
That's awesome.
So we were just doing these jackpots, and I was kept growing, and my goal was to get enough cattle put together to maybe go to a U.S. Open. You know, that's my goal. And you got to have a semi-load, which, if people don't know, that's a big truck and a 50-foot, 3-foot trailer, and it's a double-decker, and you can put about 100 steers on it.
You got to have 100 steers if you're going to do this.
You need 100 steers.
All right, we started with 30, and we got to get to 100.
We got to get to 100. That's the first goal. So,
and for those that you don't know, these aren't, like, buying steers is not a cheap endeavor.
No.
Like, you got cattle prices, which is if you're just buying you a cow at the sale barn. Yeah. These steers, they don't cost the same as a...
Right, and they're a different breed. I mean, you don't find them every day coming through the local sale barn or stuff like that. I mean, just a handful of folks have them.
Right.
And they're a hard thing to come by sometimes.
And they kind of get to charge what they want to charge.
Right.
Yep.
So, I think it'd be 2021. So, I'm going to go back a little farther than that. So, about 2020, I finally got enough steers to do some U.S. Opens.
Okay.
So I get to send a load to Wirtz, Virginia for John Johnson. That's the first load of steers I get to send to.
Right.
So I send him up there.
And he's leasing them from you to put on his roping.
Yep. So he's the producer, and he's renting them from me. And at the time, I'm still High Stakes Productions.
Right.
So I finally get enough. I send them up there, and it does good. I had a set of steers for every caliber roper from the top to the bottom, from the beginners, you know, to the higher number of people. And they loved them. So it worked out. And then later on, I get another call from another gentleman named Ed Allen, and he does U.S. Opens as well. Mm-hmm. So I get to send another load to him in the fall. So now I've got to send 2 loads to U.S. Opens, plus what I'm doing myself.
Right.
Well, through all this, I'm working for another gentleman on his place, kind of taking care of his horses, roping a little bit, and I kind of he kind of lets me do my cow thing as well. And he comes to me and he says, what can you do with another 250 head of steers? And I looked at him and I said, I'll have every roping in the Southeast booked. He said, you think so? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm going to go.
And how old are you when you said this?
23.
23.
Roughly,
Okay.
I think.
All right.
So this would be in 21.
Right.
Or this is when, 2021 is when we established East Coast Cattle. And East Coast Cattle was already a company done going and sending to all the U.S. events.
Right.
So he goes and buys them out. And at the time, I think I had, at this point, I'm up to about 160-ish steers of my own.
Right.
So we're going to combine them.
Okay.
And we turn it into East Coast Cattle.
All right.
And we turn it into a partnership. So it's myself, my brother gets to buy in, and it was Casey Cronin.
Okay.
He was the main person that helped me in this.
Wow. So,
Like, give me the start.
so he believed in you then?
Yeah, he kind of seen what I was doing with the roping steers, and that was growing and growing, and he said, here's a chance. And he kind of does that with a lot of people. Like, if he sees that they're growing, he's like, here's your opportunity, run with it. So when we sat down, I believe in 21, we had 18 events booked.
Okay.
At the end of the year, we did 32 or 3. And now, we're going into 25.
Right.
I think I did my math wrong. It was 22 when we started this, 2022. Okay. Because this is the 3rd year. And we do about 35 to 40 events a year.
So let's get this timeline. So the first year you did 2 big U.S. ropings, and when was that?
That was be the year before we started East Coast Cattle.
So in 21.
Yes.
And then in 25, or in 24.
No, it'd be 22.
22, you did 35 events.
But they wasn't all U.S. ropings.
Okay, but still 35 events.
Yeah, and then in
Okay.
21, only 2 of them was USTRC events, and then plus just what I was doing as high stakes production. So maybe
Right.
14, 15 events
Okay.
a year. So we went from like 15 to 35 in a year.
That's growing quick.
Fast.
That's fast.
Yeah. So we had all this, and we've just kind of been going, and Casey come to me and he said, I think you're ready. Just why don't you buy my part out? So this was of June of last year.
Okay.
So my brother and I buy him out.
Right.
So in 6 months, Trevor's a really good horse trainer.
Right.
And he was kind of doing more of the horse training stuff, and I was more focused on the steers and going that route. And he says, why don't you just buy me out too? And he said, and I'll go ride my horses. He said, you're doing more this way. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and buy you out too. I said, that's my goal. I said, that own it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought him out of January of 25.
Okay.
So I now own the whole thing, and there's 580 roping steers.
508.
580.
580.
80.
But we'll just call it 600. I mean,
Yeah.
that's easier.
So, yeah, and
And how many events will you do this year?
I think I looked on my phone before coming in here. I got 36 wrote down
36 events booked as of
now.
March.
Yeah.
That number will probably
It
increase.
can change. I mean, people call whether it be needing 30 steers or 300 steers. We send them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it don't matter.
So let's talk about this, because this is, I got 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, they're out there cutting grass now. And I tell them this all the time, and it's no different than when I started this company. You know, I started in my garage and grew this to what it is now. And there's everybody I've ever talked to, the small business owner, had that person that was like, you know what, you're ready, let me help. And most of the time it's because somebody else helped them. Like, if you ever look, there's probably a little bit of financial return for them, but more than anything, it's paying it, paying it back. But one of the common things I see is when you see that person that's got drive, you see that person that's got ability, you see that person that wants to achieve more, and you really feel they've got it done. They find that there's that person that kind of pours into them. Mm-hmm. And I always say it's like they see the fire burning, and they take the gas and they throw it on the fire and get it going. That sounds like who Casey was for you.
Yeah, and he just kind of said, "Here, run with it," and
right.
I run with it. Like when it was all in the midst of everything going on, Casey just sat in the back. He was just like, "You do what you think you need to do," and me and Trevor just broke in steers, fed steers. My main deal is sorting cattle.
Okay.
And everybody's like, "Why do you sort so many cattle?" I like to have them when they go to the jackpots. I got them slow set,
mm-hmm.
and I got them in different speeds for different levels of ropers.
So if you send ear tag number 483, you can tell the guy this is a fast steer.
Yes.
So you keep all that tracked, all that written down.
Yeah, and now it's getting to the point of now I'm getting them in groups. Instead of having 10 or 15 new ones coming in, mm-hmm. I'm getting them 100. That way I can send 100 new ones to her open instead of 30 or 40 and have multiple different sets. You can start with 100 on Saturday morning in the high numbers, and they'll slow down enough for Sunday mm-hmm. for everybody to rope them.
So you said I'm going to take a different approach. I'm not just going to focus on sending steers. I'm going to send you a higher quality product with more information on it. You're going to add value. Mm-hmm. So I think that's key, because there's probably other people out there doing this.
Oh yeah.
When you can tell them, like, all right, this one does, this set here is going to be your faster cattle.
Right.
So you really focus on the quality part.
Yeah, like people can call me, like last year I did the biggest east of Mississippi. It's a roping in Tuscumbia, Alabama. And I provided the cattle from the open to the 12. So when I say the open, that's like the elite guys in the southeast. Or
best of the best.
Best of the best. So they want a fresher set of steers. It's only got 3 or 4 runs on them. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start them in the open because they're going to run the hardest, probably be a little more wilder to heel. And that's what they're going to rope. And that's what they kind of rope everywhere out west, Mm-hmm. I mean, and looking back on this side of the eastern Mississippi, I'm kind of the only guy with this amount of steers. Like,
really?
There's a couple other guys that probably have 100 to 150 that send us some jackpots, but as far as 500, nobody's got that amount. So they call me a lot for cattle. And my wife probably gets tired of me talking about steers and stuff, but and it's a funny thing. When me and her started dating, it was right when all this started. I mean, mm-hmm. she's been along the road the whole way through it. I mean, she's seen it all. And now that I'm at home, we got our arena finished just like yesterday and the mm-hmm. day before. She's helping me break in steers. I mean, she supports it the whole way through. I mean, so I told her, I said, "You can do it, I promise." And she helps me a lot, so I love it.
I often I read this verse in Proverbs once talking about a godly woman and talking about a good wife and how it's more valuable than jewels. Uh-huh. And I tell people all the time that my wife was around when I was sitting in my garage, and I threw more darts than I did treating horses. I was just looking, trying to get started and praying every day the bills got paid. Yeah. And the struggles, I was the receptionist, the tech, the lab technician, the veterinarian, the bookkeeper, the marketing director. I was all of it. Yeah. And I remember my wife, she was there for it all. And sometimes I don't think they get enough credit mm-hmm. for the role they play. Yeah. It was that old saying, behind every successful man is a great woman. Yeah. And I live by that. And it sounds like you had the same thing with Annie, because I've known Annie, your wife, since she was, she's probably 15. I don't even think she was driving yet the first time I worked on her horse. Mm-hmm. So I've known her a long time. And yeah, so how old are you now?
27.
27. So at 27 years old, you've got one of the largest production companies and cattle companies for ropings east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But one of the things I like is you give credit to this guy that really helped push you.
And, I have to give credit to my whole family.
Right.
I mean, they've all helped in some form or fashion. And they still help me. My mom does the bookkeeping at the roping.
Right.
Now my mother-in-law comes and she helps time and take entries.
Right.
Annie helps take entries and time. My dad flags for me sometimes at the events. So, I mean, everybody still helps and plays a role in the production side of it. And I kind of just do the cattle and talk to everybody and get them to come back.
And that's, I can remember one time we were talking, you were in, it was when the big freeze was coming, and we were icing. It was our first big snowstorm of the year, and you were talking about how you had cattle up near Murphy, North Carolina, where you're from. And I remember you saying, yeah, my dad's out there now making sure he's hauling water, and he's family.
Yeah, so that's like Dad is a horseshoer and has been for years, and I'm down in Bethlehem now, which is about 2.5 hours from Murphy. And I can talk a little bit about we're raising them now, our own.
So y'all are breeding and raising your own steers.
Yeah, so Trevor, my brother, and I are still partners on some Corrini mama cows.
Okay.
We've got 70.
70.
And they're all heifers. This is their first calf, and they're calving now.
Okay.
So what we have done when we have turned these out is the only ones that we've turned out have been heifers that have run, longevity, and kind of quality.
So you're selecting for quality then. You're not just saying, hey, you got horns, you get to rope.
Right, and I'm not going off of color and everything. Like a lot of people like solid black, solid red Corrinis. We have some spotted ones. It don't matter. We were going off what's lasted the longest,
right?
What's run the best. What can we turn out to hopefully get calves to last longer? Because that's the goal.
Right.
The longer they last, the more money they make.
That's right.
On the roping steers, because they get paid by the amount of people that come and the amount of times they run.
Right.
So that's how we've turned our heifers out, and that goes back there in North Carolina, and my dad takes care of all them.
So he's doing the calving now.
Yeah, so we've been up there and checked on them a little bit, and they're kind of not like a beef cow. You ain't got to go out there and check them daily.
No, they survive.
Yes.
They will survive.
Yes, and the calves come out about 20 or 30 pounds. They look like little goats.
Right.
And they just take off. But on another side of thing that people won't realize, it normally takes these steers 16 to 18 months to get big enough to use.
So you think about that's 9 months after you bred her. And then so then you're looking at 2.5 years.
Yes.
Before.
And then normally she's done got another calf on the ground before you get to rope the first one.
Wow.
So you normally got to get through the first 2.5 years, and then it's kind of like every year you've got a calf.
That makes sense.
But this is the 6th herd we've built.
6th.
We'll normally get them, say, find a group of roping steers, and we'll normally have to sell our mamas to pay for them or something, you know?
Right.
So it's just kind of like a return cycle. And so now I think we've got 30-some calves on the ground, and I'm like, I want to see this through. You know? Roping steers are getting harder to find, and I said, I want to see this through at least one time, you know, because I'm like, I ain't never got to rope my own calves.
Right.
So I'm like, I want to see what happens and how long they last, if it was really worth it. You know what I mean?
Correct, yeah.
So that's what we're going for right now.
It kind of makes sense, because I remember back, I rode bulls, and we're talking about the late 90s, and, you know, back then, guys just went out and caught bulls, brought them to the pen, and if they bucked, they made the string.
Yeah.
And now they breed these just like any other athlete.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we really think about these animals in rodeo it's kind of amazing. They're going to work for about 10, 15 minutes a year.
I mean, you're talking about 8 seconds.
Yeah, they don't work very long.
Yeah.
And they are taken care of like any other athlete. And it sounds like, and now they're purpose bred. Like you cross these bulls to get the ones you want.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're doing the same thing with roping steers. You're like, hey, let's breed a steer that's going to be what we need.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so we got them, and I got another group of cattle where I kind of do these deals with older gentlemen, and they don't have to be older gentlemen, but that's who does it with me. Mm-hmm. So, for example, like if we've talked about this before, so let's say you own 15 Corrigan or Longhorn mama cows. Mm-hmm. I'll supply the bull of my choice for your cows, and then I'll guarantee to buy the calves back. So you don't have to worry about a different market. I mean, you're guaranteed a certain market on your cattle, no matter what. You ain't even got to deal with finding a bull.
You take care of it all.
I take care of that.
Like, I'm going to bring you the genetics. I'm going to buy them. You got a guaranteed buyer.
Yep.
Time to sell them in.
No questions asked.
That's awesome.
So that's how I've been able to keep my roping steers found, you know. Mm-hmm. So I got about 4 or 5 different guys that do that, and that's one way to keep my fresh steers coming. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know how long they're going to last. Some of them may last 2 events, and some of them's lasted 2 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, you just don't know. It just depends on the cattle.
So, it's kind of funny going through. I pick up on it just because I've been in business for a long time, and it's funny. I've talked to a lot of business people, and some of the things that I hear you saying ring true in every industry. So I would ask, like, what would you say, like, the keys to success? What has been your keys to success in growing this business from how old were you got started? An 18-year-old kid?
I didn't go to college.
Didn't go to college.
No.
You said you tried it and it just didn't.
It didn't work. Somebody called saying they need something done, cattle related, and I'd just leave.
Right.
So it was just like I didn't do it, and I just kind of had to stick with it and keep going, because there's been times it's been really hard. Like, I'd finish a jackpot and I'd be like, I might have to go get a job. Like, this ain't working. Mm-hmm. And with me being spread out and where everything was, I drove a lot, and I'd sometimes just get in the back of the truck and pray, like, is this really what you want me to keep doing? Like, is this my path that you want me to do? If not, show me another way that I need to be making money.
Right.
And I haven't been shown no other way, and I just keep going and doing. And I mean, there's going to be hiccups, and there's going to be times where it's tough, but there's always tomorrow. Not always, but that's the way you got to keep
that's right.
your mind to be, is there's tomorrow, and I can go make some money somewhere, and maybe it'll get better.
Entrepreneurship, I tell people, is not for the faint of heart.
No.
And if you want to do this for a better quality of life, I hear you get there, but it's work, and you better love what you do, because you're fixing to do it a lot.
Yeah.
So what would you say a couple keys to success? Like, let's say there's somebody out here listening, and they're thinking about trying to start whatever kind of business. And what would you say the keys are to go from an 18-year-old kid with, we say, 15 roping steers to 28-year-old Tyler with 580 roping steers and another 70 head of mama cows? What would you say the keys that you think helped you get there?
Don't give up.
Yeah.
And in reality, there's going to be people that tell you you're never going to make it. Mm-hmm. But in reality, you're your biggest critic.
Yeah.
I mean, your mind and everything plays a role on everything.
Yeah.
So if you have the right mindset to keep going, you'll make it. But if you set yourself back, you're going to just stay set back the whole time.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I'd say. I mean, there's going to be people that throw you down. I mean, there's been people tell me all the time, you need to find something else to do. This ain't going to make you enough money. Mm-hmm. But it makes me a living.
Right.
And I have a lot of assets that make me worth a lot of money.
Right.
I may not be worth a lot of money right now with what I have, but if I was to sell out, I'm worth something.
You know, I remember that a lot of people told me when I was shoeing horses and decided to go to vet school, There are a lot of people that, Dan, you got to quit fooling them horses. Those horses ain't gonna take you anywhere. You got to quit fooling with them. Go get a job. Like, they ain't taking you anywhere. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna get somewhere. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm gonna make a living with horses somehow.
Right.
And I guess I'm going on 25 years of making my living with horses, either being a farrier or being a vet. So absolutely, people are gonna tell you can't. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. My son's only 13, and when you're out there, he's a pitcher. Mm-hmm. And my wife asked him one time, like, how do you do this when you're on the mound and the other team's yelling at you, trying to distract you, and they're yelling all this stuff at you, and yelling things that trying to bring you down, telling you you're not good. She's like, how do you deal with that out there? And at 13, he goes, oh, you got to look at it different. I just look at it as they're cheering for me. He said, don't listen to words, just listen to noise. Oh, they're cheering for me.
Right.
And so he's out there, he's like, yeah, they're just cheering for me. And I think that's kind of like being an entrepreneur. When people are telling you no, like, to me, that pushes me.
Right.
Let's go be better. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things I kept hearing throughout this podcast, and let's talk about this, because I think this is the fundamental key to any business. You said, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to be able to tell you what those steers will do. I'm going to produce a better quality product, and I'm going to provide you service. And it sounds like you found that out. That first rope and first big, when you put it on, the barrier broke. You're like, I did not provide a service, and it hurt. Is that what kind of motivated you to say, all right, we're going to be better, and we got to provide a better service than the next guy down the road?
Yeah, because if you take 80 to 100 people there, now they're talking about me.
Right.
And I don't want my name being drugged down, I mean, that's a start to a business or start to something. And I mean, that's key with any business. I mean, you're on a grading job and you screw up, that's your name and future, gone.
Right.
But I just was like, I said, I can do better. I said, I just needed to get all the tools that I needed to make it a good event. Mm-hmm. And we've had funny conversations with people that was at that roping.
Really?
Yeah, like now to see what I did wrong and how it's come. They said, we would have never thought this would happen. We never would have seen you going all the way through and doing and having what you got now in the roping steers and the business wise of it. They're like, we figured you'd just been done, and it's crazy to think. And I mean, some of them guys are close friends and partners that I rope with all the time. We had a conversation going to a rodeo with them, and they were like, we didn't think you would be doing what you're doing now after that event.
Well, so that's usually the first thing in business. I can remember some of my first big setbacks, and you're just like, it like hits you. You don't sleep. I mean, and what may seem like a little mistake to people that don't understand is, like I said, you're your biggest critic. When that mistake happens, it eats at you.
Oh, it makes you feel terrible.
And I always say that's when you find out what somebody's made of, because you got a fundamental choice. Do you roll over and quit? Mm-hmm. Or do you go, well, this is the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Let's go solve the problem. That's not going to happen again. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got one or two sets of barriers now? One? And
I've had the same set since after that event.
And how often do you test that thing?
Every time before a roping. So, but we now everything's kind of got all of our kinks worked out. And I mean, we're almost 8 years going into all this, and it's still, I do a series at Greensboro, and we got a roping for anybody. If you're a beginner, we got a roping for you, or if you're a higher number roper, there's a roping for you. And I mean, we make a day out of it, and it's a series, and we give a lot of prizes at the end of the year, and you can buy a membership. And I have a couple of just different ropings and that are like annual ropings that we have added money and prizes and different things to give away. And I kind of got there's like a following, I guess you can say, of people that come to almost all my events.
Wow.
So, I mean, we have a pretty good group, and there's a lot of new people coming along, and that's why I started this new event. And I mean, here's another business perspective I can tell you for like Greensboro. So last year we had a roping, which is a 12 slide, and it's for higher number guys. Well, throughout the year, I only averaged 19 teams. So I have a number 8 point roping at the end, which is like 3 and 4 rope. It's kind of like beginner to intermediate type deal. And it had a 6 incentive, which is for the 3s and down below.
Right.
Well, I got to talking to some people, and there's a junior rodeo in Clayton, Georgia, and there's a lot of kids roping, and there's a lot of people wanting to learn the team rope.
Right.
So this year, I'm getting rid of the 12 slide. I was like, it's the same group of people. When we get 19 teams, it ain't benefiting nothing.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to make that 6 a roping by itself.
Right.
And it's for beginners and kids in that form or fashion. And I said, I'm going to grow my next customers.
Your next generation.
Basically, and next generation of ropers. I said, I'm going to give them a roping to go to.
That's
awesome.
Because
I said, if we don't look out for the kids,
right,
give them a chance to come and rope and win a buckle, or the people just getting into it, what are we growing?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You know? So I was like, I'm going to do this roping. Everybody wants to come win a belt buckle. You know, at the end of the series, top 3, and heading and heeling's going to win a buckle. But that was my goal for this year is let's give the kids and people just starting something to come rope in to maybe get hooked.
You know, and I think I've never, I roped a handful of times in a pen. I cowboyed out west, and I've roped a ton in the pasture. And you know, one of the things, the few times I went, and I can remember going to watch. I was going to go watch. And after about 30 minutes of them people are asking, like, hey, jump on here, you try it, you try it, you try it, you try it. I've always noticed ropers, for the most part, they're pretty inviting people. They want to help you get started.
Yeah.
But it can be a little intimidating when you watch guys that are really good just going out there and doing it, and you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to catch.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be intimidating. And so putting something like that on that says, hey, come on out, like because, you know, once people get there and they realize, like, yeah, there's a lot of people, there's some really good guys, but they'll help you.
Yeah.
They've always been really inviting people, but I think helping that next generation, especially the kids, that opportunity is pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's the goal for this year, is changing it up a little bit to maybe say, here, come rope with us. I mean, we're going to have about 8 events down there, 1 a month, and it's going to give you an opportunity to go somewhere, and it's not super expensive, and just give you a fun place to come and do it. I mean,
that's going to be down in Greensboro?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yeah, anybody that's looking at getting into that, I think that'd be a really great place to go. And I'll tell you, I love seeing kids get into horses. One, it's good for make sure I got customers in the future, but more than anything, I would just say kids that grow up with horses and grow up riding, these are people that stay productive. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter what's going on in life. Like, it doesn't matter what the weather is.
Yeah.
It don't matter how you feel. You still got to go take care of that horse.
Yeah, and rodeo is rain or shine.
Yes.
They don't call them off unless it's a sure enough lightning storm. I mean, they're going to have them.
And it's one of those that there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes.
Yep.
And that's rodeo.
Yep.
Get tough.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's I think there's a lot that helps with. You know, that's like I said, horse kids. I'm not saying kids that don't have horses aren't good, but it teaches kids responsibility, and that life's not just about them. They got a responsibility to take care of those animals.
Right.
And that's I don't know where else you get that from. So that's pretty cool that you're putting back in and you're helping people do this.
Right.
And one of the things I found interesting was y'all have to actually train these steers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not, like I was talking to the other day, and you're like, yeah, I got to go home and train these steers. And it's not, just go out and rope. So you got a lot of time invested in training them, right?
Yeah, we get them in, and just like this past week, Annie and I have been breaking in just a handful. It's not many, but we train them. We set our arena up at our house kind of like to train steers. Mm-hmm. So we run them through a bunch. I mean, you don't want them running left and wild to heel and this and that at all the events. So we'll get them in and put the ropes on in the chute a couple times and turn them, and then put 3 or 4 like legit runs on them before they actually go to event, and kind of know if one's going to be slow or fast, kind of like that way I can put him in a different spot if he needs to be. Mm-hmm. But you got to train them. I mean, because if not, they'll get sorry fast. Yep. So it's kind of a operation right there once they come in. It's like in May, I'll have 90 coming back I send them sometimes to a cutter, and it just kind of like chills them out a little bit and makes them easier to handle when you get them in. Mm-hmm. So we'll break in a big group then, and we're constantly looking for steers, and I mean, that's the only way you can keep it going. You got to have I don't know how to say it, but you got to have your group. I mean, that's what makes you money. So if you run out of them, you're going to go broke.
Yeah, if you start running out, that's money lost.
So, because there are always going to be some bad ones after every roping, you can guarantee something like that.
Right, keeping that supply chain going.
Yeah.
So, well, Tyler, it's been really cool talking to you today. And like I said, I know it's a little different than what we normally do on this podcast, but I talked to so many people, and it's like I want this story told, because it's not a traditional way a lot of people go, but what I look at is it was somebody that had a passion for what you did, and you're like, I'm gonna make a run at this. Mm-hmm. You hit those adversities, you push through, and I always hate it, because people now probably look and say, oh, look at Tyler, he's 28 and he's just overnight success. And I always tell people that's like it takes about 10 to 20 years to get to be an overnight success.
Right.
People always see those last couple of years. They don't see that first 10 where it's just slugging it out and hit from one side, hit from another, and it was just pretty cool hearing your story. And like I said, I just wanted to tell it. And
well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thank y'all for tuning in. Hope y'all have enjoyed it. I know it's a little different than what we normally do, but I just wanted to tell that story and have Tyler on. And if people are looking for you, you got social media, websites, anything like that?
We got a Facebook page called High Stakes Production Team Roping. You can go on there and like us, and you can see all the winners and all the events coming up at each roping.
Find the schedule, they can find you. And I tell you, if you think you're interested, go to roping and watch.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, talk to somebody, and they'll help you on that path, because it's a pretty cool sport, and it's growing faster and faster.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, and if you're too far from me, we can kind of point you in the right direction to somebody that might be close to you that can help out as well.
That's awesome. So thank y'all for tuning in today. Tyler, thanks for being here. April, thanks for filming all this. And Casey, as always, thank you for editing this podcast, because y'all don't realize how much work these ladies do to keep this going. And most importantly, thank you to all our listeners again. We love the fact y'all are tuning in. Keep sending us those comments, like, subscribe. If you want to reach out and you got questions, topics you want covered, or things you want to talk about you like to see us talk about on here, you can email us, call us, text us, DM. That's the other one, right? DMs. I'm gonna learn all these things one day. I don't think you can tweet. Do we have Twitter? Or it's X now? I don't even know what it is. Anyway, reach out to us any way you want, and we'll get to you. But thanks again for tuning in from all of us here at Countryside Equine Hospital. Thank y'all.